Hey everybody, real quick before we get into the video, when we reach 69 subscribers, we're going to make a mystery shots video, so don't forget to subscribe. Alright, so you're having a beer, and you look at the side of the bottle, and you see that little thing at the side that says ABV percentage. And you're not really sure how it is that they get that. Well, today, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. So, there's this nifty little tool called a hydrometer. A hydrometer will test the gravity of the liquid that you put it into. In this case, your wort or beer. Now, you're wondering, okay, how exactly does this work? Well, when you put the hydrometer into the liquid, it then floats. And then there are these little bars on the side that have numbers. This one specifically has a percentage on it, but that only gives you a rough idea, and it's not as accurate as the way I'm going to show you. Here you will see the spots that have what we call in the industry tens. So with the tens, what that refers to is you have the 1.0 and then a couple of numbers. We just simply call that 10, whatever the number is, just to make it easy. But it's important to remember that decimal point when you do the calculations. So, in this case, we already know what the percentage was of our beer when it went into fermentation. And then we take into another reading of the hydrometer. In this case, it is 1016. So then we take the original gravity reading that we had before, because we already took it, we know what it is, and then we subtract it by the final gravity. Then you take the sum of that, and then you multiply it by 131.25. And then that will give you the exact percentage of your beer. In this case, 4.9, which is close enough that we can simply call it 5%. This is very important to know the gravity of your beer. By doing this, this is the only way you will know if you have a full fermentation. This is actually how I was able to figure out that one of my batches didn't have a full fermentation. I was supposed to end up with a final gravity of somewhere between 1012 and 1016. I had a reading of 1021. That is not necessarily a good thing to have. When we were steeping the grains, we ended up having the temperature get too high for too long. This created non-fermentable sugars. So the beer ended up tasting a bit sweeter than it was actually supposed to. And it wasn't due to leaving it ferment for a longer time, because at this point it was already at a couple months in for aging. We simply let the beer age in the original fermenter because we were limited on supplies at the time. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to do that, but it's not also a bad thing to transfer over to a secondary fermenter. The one thing you have to be careful about with that is not adding oxygen into your brew to skunk your beer. Now, you do need oxygen in your beer for the fermentation process, but it is something that when you're transferring beer, if you can minimize that, would be better. One of my brew partners the guy who got me into brewing in the first place. We had some of his beer that he had bottled before I started brewing with him. Still new to the process at the time. During the transferring process, ended up adding a lot of oxygen into his beer, skunking a handful of his bottles. He also ended up putting them into green bottles. And as you had seen in a previous video of why having stuff in green bottles is not always the best idea, put a card for it up for you here. That's a pretty nifty little tool, ain't it? And they're not really all that expensive. For that specific style, you might be dropping $7, $9 on it. So, with that, always remember to take your original gravity reading, and always remember to take the final gravity reading. One thing I want to mention is when you're doing the math on a calculator, make sure that when you take your original and final gravities and subtract the two, you take the sum of that. Because if you plug it into the calculator as just a single string of numbers, your original gravity minus your final gravity times 131.25, you will end up with some god-awful number. Like something shooting for the stars. So just be aware of that. Some calculators might be able to figure out that, but it's generally good practice to remember to take the sum of the first numbers. Let me know of some in the comments. What other things you like to see me talk about in Brew Buds? Or would you like to see us actually make up a batch of beer? Either way, leave a comment. Let us know what you think, because this is about you. I know how to do these things, and I want to make it easier for you to be able to do it. Also, if you have a brew that you thought turned out well, post to it into our Discord, link in the description below. Let us know how our advice is helping you. We love the feedback. That's it for today. We talked about how to read a hydrometer, how to calculate the APV after you have your readings, and a little bit into the process behind why it is important to have a gravity reading. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed that video, please drop a like and leave a comment on what other subjects you'd like to see us talk about. Also, check out In Search of the Perfect Mushroom Swiss Burger Facebook page for great recipes and tips. And as always, we will see you next time.